The Tennessee air in the autumn of 1817 hung thick and sweet with the scent of dying leaves and the promise of a hard winter. In the northwest corner of Robertson County, where the Red River snaked through the bottomlands like a drowsy copperhead, stood the modest but sturdy farm of John Bell Sr. A man built of good honest timber, John, along with his wife Lucy and their gaggle of children, had carved out a decent life from this fertile, unforgiving land. They were folks who believed in God, hard work, and keeping their troubles to themselves. But the land, like the human heart, can harbour secrets, and in the rustling leaves and the shadows stretching long in the twilight, something ancient and malevolent was beginning to stir. Something that would turn their peaceful homestead into a stage for a drama of terror. A haunting so profound it would claw its way into the very soul of America, whispered about in hushed tones for generations to come. This is the story of the Bell Witch, a tale as dark and twisted as the roots of an old oak, a true American nightmare. The first whisper of wrongness arrived on a summer breeze, so subtle you might have missed it if you weren't listening close. John Bell, a man with dirt under his fingernails and a keen eye for his land, was walking his cornfields, the stalks standing tall and heavy with the season's bounty. But then he saw it. Squatting amidst the green rows, a creature that defied God's natural order. It had the solid, low-slung body of a dog, something familiar. But the head was all wrong. A rabbit's head, twitching, its long ears held high as if listening to secrets carried on the wind. John, a hunter and a farmer, knew the creatures of these woods. But this was an abomination. He raised his rifle, the familiar weight comforting in his hands, and fired. Once, twice, maybe more. But the creature, it just vanished. One moment there, the next. Gone. No blood, no fur, just the lingering unease in the air, a prickle on the back of his neck that had nothing to do with the summer heat. He probably tried to tell himself it was the sun playing tricks, a momentary glitch in his vision. But deep down, a seed of disquiet had been planted. The strangeness didn't end there. Soon, the other Bells started seeing things that didn't quite fit. Drew, John's son, a sturdy lad growing into manhood, swore he saw a bird perched on their fence, a thing of impossible size. Bigger than any turkey buzzard, its wings casting shadows that felt cold even in the sun. It just sat there, Drew said, its beady eyes fixed on the house. Watching, waiting, and no amount of shouting or stone throwing could scare it away. Then there was young Betsy, barely a teenager, her world still filled with the innocent magic of childhood. She spoke of a girl in a green dress, a spectral figure swinging silently from the branch of the ancient oak that stood like a gnarled sentinel at the edge of their property. No laughter, no sound of the rope, just the eerie, silent sway against the darkening sky. Each sighting was a thread in a growing tapestry of the bizarre, a sense that the natural world around the Bell farm was somehow fractured. But the real trouble started when the sun dipped below the horizon and the familiar sounds of the old log home, the settling timbers, the rustling leaves outside began to take on a more sinister edge. It started with a knocking. Sharp, insistent raps on the doors and walls, as if unseen knuckles were demanding entry. Not the random creaks of an old house, but deliberate, rhythmic, sometimes even frantic. Then came the scratching, a frantic, clawing sound at the windows, like some trapped animal desperate to get in, or perhaps something wanting to get out. And the gnawing, the persistent, unsettling sound of rats chewing on the bedposts, a sound that kept them awake in the dead of night, even though no one ever saw a single rat. Sometimes the noises mimicked the sounds of the wild, the frantic flapping of invisible wings against the ceiling, the low growls and scuffling of phantom dogs fighting beneath their very beds, the dragging of heavy chains across the wooden floor, even the distinct sound of someone sucking their teeth and smacking their lips. At first, they tried to find logical explanations, the wind whistling through cracks, a raccoon in the attic, the old house settling on its foundations. But the sounds persisted, night after relentless night, growing bolder, more insistent. The easy answers dissolved like smoke, leaving behind a chilling unease, a gnawing feeling that something was fundamentally wrong, not just with the house, but with the very air they breathed within its walls. They kept it to themselves mostly. John Bell was a respected man in the community, a pillar of the local church. He didn't want folks thinking his family was touched, that madness had taken root in his home. But one of the enslaved people on the Bell farm, a man named Dean, experienced something separate, something that felt connected to the land itself. On his walks to visit his wife in the neighbouring quarters, Dean reported being followed by a large black dog. Not just any dog, but a shadow with glowing eyes, its presence both menacing and unnatural. It would stalk him through the darkness, its silent pursuit more terrifying than any bark or growl, until he reached his destination. Dean, steeped in the old ways, felt a primal fear. This was no ordinary animal. This was an omen, a sign of the unrest that was settling over the farm. His wife, sensing his terror, fashioned him a witch ball, a fragile sphere of woven hair and herbs, hoping to ward off the evil that seemed to be creeping closer. The creature in the field, the oversized bird, the silent girl in the woods, the escalating cacophony within the house, and Dean's terrifying encounters in the darkness. These were the first tremors, the opening act in a drama of dread that would soon engulf the Bell family and etch their name into the darkest corners of American folklore. The whispers had begun, and soon they would become a scream. The unsettling noises were just a prelude, a soft tapping on the door before the real storm broke. The haunting took a sharp, brutal turn, escalating from bumps in the night to tangible, often violent, interactions. The unseen presence was no longer content with mere sounds. It wanted to touch, to torment, to inflict pain. Sheets would be ripped from the beds in the dead of night, leaving the sleepers shivering in the cold, exposed and vulnerable. Pillows were yanked from beneath their heads, sometimes thrown across the room with surprising force, landing with a soft thud that only amplified the silence that followed. The children, as is so often the case in these dark tales, became the initial targets of more direct physical abuse. They would wake in the night, their small bodies trembling, crying out in fear, claiming that unseen hands were pulling their hair, sometimes with such viciousness it felt like it would be torn from their scalps. Scratches, like the work of invisible claws, would appear on their skin, and they were often slapped and pinched by something no one could see. The welts and handprints sometimes visible on their faces and bodies the next morning. A horrifying testament to the unseen violence. Betsy Bell, the youngest, seemed to bear the brunt of this phantom aggression. The attacks on her were often more violent, more sustained, leaving her terrified and bruised, a living canvas of the unseen tormentor's cruelty. There were even whispers, later confirmed in hushed tones, of her being lifted from her bed and thrown to the floor, the impact jarring the old house. The family was at a complete loss, unable to protect their child from this invisible enemy, this thing that had invaded their home and turned it into a chamber of horrors. As the haunting intensified, a new, even more unsettling phenomenon began to manifest. The strange noises, the raps and scratches, evolved. They coalesced into whispers, faint at first, like the rustling of dry leaves carried on a phantom wind. These whispers grew stronger, clearer, until they formed a distinct disembodied voice that could be heard throughout the house, a chilling presence that permeated every room. The voice, often described as that of an elderly woman, was raspy, sometimes a mere whisper, other times chillingly clear, capable of speaking from any corner of the room, even multiple rooms simultaneously. A spectral ventriloquist with the entire house as its stage. When questioned, this unseen entity identified itself as Kate. Sometimes it claimed to be the spirit of Kate Batts, a neighbour of the Bells, a woman known in the community as being big, strident, and coarse, who, according to local gossip, believed John Bell had cheated her in a land deal, a dispute over property, or perhaps even the sale of a slave. This connection to a living person, albeit one with a potential motive for revenge, added another layer of fear and intrigue to the haunting. But the entity's explanations were never consistent. At other times, it claimed to be the spirit of someone buried on their land, a Native American whose burial mound had been disturbed by the Bells' arrival, their ploughs unearthing ancient secrets and restless souls. The shifting narrative, the contradictions and half-truths, only served to deepen the mystery, to make the unseen presence even more unsettling, more unpredictable. The escalation of the haunting, from the first strange sightings to the physical attacks and the emergence of a speaking, malevolent entity, marked a terrifying descent into a nightmare that the Bell family could never have imagined, a darkness that had taken root in their very home. As the strange and terrifying events within the Bell household intensified, John's attempts to keep their family trouble a secret crumbled like dry leaves underfoot. Whispers, like insidious vines, began to creep through the small community, carried on the worried tongues of neighbours and the wide-eyed curiosity of onlookers. Soon the Bell farm became a morbid point of interest, a magnet for the curious, the sceptical, and those who genuinely wished to offer help, their faces a mixture of fear and fascination. Neighbours and friends began to arrive, their horses kicking up dust on the long lane leading to the homestead, eager to witness the strange phenomena firsthand, and perhaps, just perhaps, shed some light on the unsettling darkness that had enveloped the Bell family. Among the first to arrive was James Johnston, a close friend and neighbour of John Bell, a man whose initial scepticism would soon be replaced by a chilling certainty. He and his wife agreed to spend a night at the Bell home, their intention to observe the activity with a rational eye. But their scepticism didn't last the night. They experienced the same terrifying disturbances that had been plaguing the Bells, the knocking, the whispers, and even the unsettling feeling of their blankets being snatched away in the darkness, followed by a sharp slap in the face for James. Johnston, a deeply religious man, concluded that the bells were indeed being haunted by an evil spirit, something akin to the demons described in the Holy Scriptures. He encouraged the family and subsequent visitors to engage with the entity, to question it, to try and understand its motives, even though the answers were often cryptic and unsettling. As word of the Bell Witch spread further, carried on the whispers of travellers and the sensationalised accounts of local gossip, it eventually reached the ears of a man whose name would soon echo through the halls of American history: Andrew Jackson. In 1819, then a Major General, a celebrated war hero with a reputation as tough as hickory, Jackson, whose home was in Nashville, became intrigued by the tales emanating from Robertson County. He decided to pay a visit to the Bell Farm himself, accompanied by a group of men. Their horses a formidable sight as they rode through the Tennessee countryside, eager to investigate the disturbances that had captured the local imagination. As Jackson's entourage approached the Bell property, a strange and unsettling incident occurred. Their wagon, laden with provisions for their stay, inexplicably jolted to a sudden grinding halt, its wheels seemingly locked fast on the dry, well-travelled road. Despite the combined efforts of the men and the straining horses, the wagon refused to budge, remaining stubbornly fixed in place. Frustrated and perhaps a little unnerved, Jackson, a man not easily deterred, reportedly exclaimed, his voice booming across the quiet countryside, "By the Eternal, boys! That must be the Bell Witch." Immediately after this pronouncement, as if summoned by his words, a disembodied female voice, clear and sharp, spoke from the surrounding trees, granting them permission to proceed and promising to see them again that evening, a chilling welcome to the haunted farm. This event, whether a perfectly true account or one embellished by the passing of time and the power of legend, undeniably cemented the Bell Witch's growing notoriety and forever linked her to a figure of national prominence. During their stay at the Bell Farm, Jackson and his men experienced the haunting firsthand. One of Jackson's companions, a boastful man who fancied himself a witch tamer, a self-proclaimed expert in the dark arts, declared with unwavering confidence that his silver bullet, a charm against evil, would surely dispatch any troublesome spirit. However, the Bell Witch, or whatever it was, seemed utterly unimpressed by his bravado. The witch tamer was suddenly and violently attacked by an unseen force, claiming he was being stuck with pins, as if a spectral seamstress had taken a sudden disliking to him, and even grabbed by the nose, a humiliating assault by an invisible hand, before being unceremoniously thrown out of the house, landing in a heap in the yard. This dramatic display of power terrified Jackson's men, their bravado evaporating like morning mist, and they reportedly begged him to leave the cursed farm, their fear palpable in the night air. Accounts vary, as they often do with tales that pass through generations, but some suggest that Jackson, humbled and perhaps a little spooked by the encounter, later remarked that he would rather face the entire British Army again than spend another night in the company of the Bell Witch. The alleged visit of Andrew Jackson, regardless of the precise details, undeniably amplified the legend of the Bell Witch, transforming a local haunting into a story that resonated across the nation. Beyond Jackson and his men, others also attempted to understand or combat the unseen entity. Neighbours, driven by a mixture of genuine concern and morbid curiosity, offered their own theories and remedies, often steeped in the folklore and superstitions of the time. Some tried prayer and religious invocations, hoping to banish the evil through the power of faith, while others, like a self-proclaimed conjurer from Kentucky named Dr. Mize, arrived with more theatrical attempts at exorcism, only to be mocked and thoroughly frightened away by the unseen entity. his spells and incantations proving useless against the Bell Witch's power. One neighbour, William Porter, a man known for his lack of fear, even claimed to have physically grappled with the invisible force in his bed, attempting to throw it into the fireplace, a desperate act of defiance, but was overcome by its immense weight and a terrible, sulphurous stench that filled the room, forcing him to flee for fresh air. These encounters with the outside world, with those who came seeking answers or hoping to intervene, only served to further solidify the Bell Witch's reputation as a powerful and unpredictable entity, one that defied conventional understanding and resisted all attempts to control or banish it, a true terror in the Tennessee night. While the Bell Witch seemed to take a perverse delight in tormenting the entire family and baffling visitors, her malevolence appeared to be particularly focused, honed to a razor's edge, on two individuals, Betsy Bell and her father, John Bell Sr. Betsy, the youngest daughter, a bright and spirited girl on the cusp of womanhood, endured a relentless barrage of physical and emotional abuse from the unseen entity. The hair-pulling, the scratching that left angry red lines on her skin, the stinging slaps and the painful pinches continued unabated, often leaving visible marks on her delicate face and arms, a constant reminder of the unseen tormentor that haunted her waking hours and invaded her dreams. But the Bell Witch's cruelty extended beyond the physical. She seemed determined to meddle in Betsy's heart, to control her future happiness. As Betsy blossomed into a young woman, she found herself drawn to a local young man named Joshua Gardner, and their innocent courtship eventually led to an engagement, a promise of a shared life. But the Bell Witch, in her infinite and inexplicable malice, vehemently opposed this union. The entity would follow the young couple relentlessly, a spectral chaperone disrupting their private moments with taunts, threats whispered on the wind, and even physical assaults on Betsy, a constant reminder of her power. The voice would plead with Betsy not to marry Joshua, sometimes in a soft, melancholy tone, a deceptive sweetness that masked its true intent, and at other times with furious pronouncements, a chilling display of its possessiveness. The constant interference, the relentless emotional and physical torment eventually took its toll on Betsy's young heart. In 1821, unable to endure the relentless harassment, she made the heartbreaking decision to break off her engagement to Joshua Gardner, severing the ties of love under the oppressive weight of the supernatural. The Bell Witch seemed to have achieved her cruel objective, leaving Betsy heartbroken and the family further isolated by the entity's seemingly boundless power. While Betsy suffered intensely under the witch's gaze, the Bell Witch harboured a particular and unwavering animosity, a deep-seated hatred for John Bell Sr. The entity, often referring to him with a mocking familiarity as Old Jack, made no secret of its dark intention to kill him, a chilling pronouncement that hung heavy in the air. The verbal abuse was constant, a relentless stream of curses and taunts that echoed through the house and across the farm, a psychological assault designed to wear him down. The physical attacks also focused on him, with reports of him being slapped, pinched, and even having his shoes mysteriously removed as he tried to walk, a petty but persistent torment. Over time, the relentless torment began to take its toll on John Bell's physical health. He suffered from increasingly frequent episodes of twitching, particularly in his face, a disturbing tic that betrayed the inner turmoil he endured. He also experienced increasing difficulty swallowing, a symptom that would later become significant. His health continued to deteriorate, his once strong frame becoming frail and weakened, until he was largely confined to his bed, a prisoner in his own home, tormented by an unseen jailer. The Bell Witch seemed to revel in his suffering, her voice often heard mocking his ailments, a cruel soundtrack to his decline. By December of 1820, John Bell's condition had worsened dramatically, his breathing shallow, his body weak, and he slipped into a coma, the darkness finally claiming him. He breathed his last breath on the morning of December 20th, 1820. The Bell Witch, it seemed, had finally achieved her dark and terrible objective. In the immediate aftermath of John Bell's death, a discovery was made within the silent, grief-stricken household, a discovery that sent a fresh wave of chills through the already terrified family. In a cupboard, in a place where none of them had ever seen it before, they found a vial. Inside, a strange, dark, smoky liquid swirled, an ominous substance of unknown origin. John Bell Jr., his heart heavy with suspicion, decided to test the mysterious liquid. He administered a few drops, just a tiny amount, to the family cat. The poor creature reportedly convulsed almost instantly, its small body writhing in agony before succumbing to the potent poison. As the family stood in shocked silence, the disembodied voice of the Bell Witch echoed through the house, a chilling pronouncement that confirmed their deepest fears. "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." The entity took full credit for John Bell's demise, a horrifying admission that solidified the belief that they had been living under the shadow of a vengeful and lethal supernatural force. John Bell's funeral was one of the largest ever seen in Robertson County, a somber gathering that drew people from miles around, a testament to his standing in the community and the widespread morbid fascination with the strange and terrifying events that had plagued his family. As the mourners began to leave the graveyard, their footsteps heavy on the freshly turned earth, a final chilling act occurred. The unmistakable laughter of the Bell Witch, sharp and mocking, filled the air, followed by the sound of her singing a bawdy drinking song about a bottle of brandy, a jarring and disrespectful serenade in the face of death and grief. Her raucous performance continued until the last mourner had departed, leaving the Bell family alone once more, a final defiant act that underscored the entity's malevolence and utter lack of respect for the solemnity of the occasion. Following John Bell's death, the intense activity of the Bell Witch began to subside. As if her primary objective had been achieved, the puppet master finally satisfied with the demise of her chosen victim. However, the entity did not disappear entirely. In April of 1821, she reportedly paid a visit to the now widowed Lucy Bell, informing her in that chilling voice that she would be leaving but would return in 7 years, a promise whispered on the wind like a dark prophecy. True to her word, the Bell Witch allegedly returned in 1828, not with the same terrifying intensity that had gripped the family for years, but to engage in conversations with John Bell Jr. During these encounters, the entity discussed a wide range of topics, from the mundane to the profound, including the origin of life, the rise and fall of civilizations, the tenets of Christianity, and the urgent need for a spiritual awakening in the world. She also made predictions about future events, some of which, according to local law, proved eerily accurate, while others faded into the realm of forgotten prophecies. After approximately 3 weeks, the Bell Witch departed once more, this time promising to return in 107 years to the most direct descendant of John Bell, a chilling promise that echoed through the decades. The year of the promised return would have been 1935, according to some accounts, or 1937, according to others, a date circled on the calendar of local folklore. While there were some reports of renewed, albeit minor, activity around Adams, Tennessee, during these years, none reached the terrifying intensity of the original haunting. The echoes, faint compared to the original scream. Whether the Bell Witch truly returned remains a matter of speculation, a lingering question mark in the ongoing saga of the haunting. The Bell family continued to live in the area, though Betsy eventually found love again, marrying her former schoolteacher, Richard Powell, and later moving to Mississippi, seeking a new life far from the shadows of her past. The legend of the Bell Witch, however, did not fade. It has been retold and reimagined for generations, passed down through whispered stories around campfires and documented in countless books, articles, and even movies, solidifying its place as one of America's most enduring and terrifying ghost stories. The small town of Adams, Tennessee, remains forever linked to the chilling tale, drawing visitors who seek to walk in the footsteps of terror, to visit the Bell Witch Cave, and perhaps catch a fleeting whisper of the infamous spirit. The legend serves as a haunting reminder of the unexplained mysteries that can take root in the American landscape, blurring the fragile lines between history, folklore, and the unsettling possibility of the supernatural. The question that has haunted the edges of this terrifying tale for over 2 centuries is a simple one, yet maddeningly elusive. What exactly was the Bell Witch? Was it a genuine supernatural entity, a poltergeist unleashed by unseen forces? Or could there be a more earthly, albeit still unsettling explanation for the events that terrorized the Bell family? The truth, like a phantom in the mist, remains stubbornly out of reach, leaving behind a landscape of speculation and conjecture, as wild and overgrown as the Tennessee countryside itself. One of the most persistent theories, the one the entity itself seemed to encourage, is that the Bell Witch was the vengeful spirit of Kate Batts. Old Kate, a neighbour known for her sharp tongue and rumoured belief that John Bell had cheated her in a land deal, certainly had a potential motive for malice. The timing of the haunting, beginning shortly after this alleged dispute, lends a certain credence to this idea. Perhaps Kate, upon her death, though some accounts claim she was still alive during the initial haunting, found a way to reach beyond the grave and exact her bitter revenge. The entity's frequent identification as Kate and her specific animosity towards John Bell further fuel this theory. Yet, the inconsistencies in the entity's claims, at times even denying a connection to Kate Batts, leave room for doubt, suggesting a more complex or even deceptive presence at play. Another supernatural explanation that has been offered is that the Bell farm was built upon or near a Native American burial ground, and the haunting was the result of disturbed spirits seeking retribution for the desecration of their resting place. This theory taps into a common trope in American folklore, a narrative often used to explain unexplained phenomena on land once inhabited by indigenous peoples. The entity itself even offered this explanation at one point, claiming to be the spirit of someone whose bones had been disinterred. The discovery of a human skeleton near the property lends a degree of unsettling plausibility to this idea. Perhaps the Bell family's arrival and subsequent farming activities inadvertently awakened an ancient and angry spirit, one that lashed out at the newcomers who had disturbed its eternal slumber. Beyond specific identities, some believe the Bell Witch was simply a malevolent spirit, a demon or poltergeist drawn to the Bell family for reasons unknown, or perhaps even summoned by dark forces. The wide range of phenomena, from physical attacks to disembodied voices, and even the ability to seemingly predict the future, certainly suggests a powerful and perhaps otherworldly presence. The entity's apparent intelligence, its ability to converse, quote scripture, and even mimic voices, further points towards a more than human intelligence at work. However, not everyone subscribes to supernatural explanations. Skeptics have proposed various earthly interpretations for the Bell Witch phenomenon. One prominent theory revolves around the possibility of a hoax, perhaps orchestrated by one or more members of the Bell family. Could the strange noises, the physical attacks, and the disembodied voice have been elaborate pranks, perhaps designed to gain attention or even driven by some underlying family conflict? The focus of much of the activity on Betsy Bell, particularly around the time of her engagement, has led some to speculate about her potential role in the events, perhaps even suggesting the use of ventriloquism. While the sheer duration and intensity of the haunting, along with the number of witnesses, make a prolonged hoax seem unlikely, it remains a possibility that cannot be entirely dismissed. Another perspective suggests that the events could be attributed to psychological phenomena such as mass hysteria or the power of suggestion. In a time of strong religious beliefs and widespread superstition, the idea of a malevolent spirit could have taken root in the community's collective consciousness, leading to the misinterpretation of natural occurrences or even the unconscious manifestation of physical symptoms due to fear and anxiety. The power of suggestion is a potent force, and once the idea of a haunting was established, it could have influenced the perceptions and experiences of both the Bell family and the numerous visitors to their farm. A more recent and intriguing theory proposes a natural, yet still sinister explanation for at least some of the events, particularly John Bell's declining health and eventual death: arsenic poisoning. Arsenic was readily available in the early 19th century, often used as rat poison. The symptoms John Bell experienced, facial twitching, difficulty swallowing, and seizures, are consistent with chronic arsenic poisoning. Furthermore, the mysterious dark liquid found after his death, which allegedly killed the family cat almost instantly, could have contained a concentrated dose of arsenic. The report of a blue flame shooting from the chimney when the vial was thrown into the fire is also consistent with the burning of arsenic. This theory raises the chilling possibility that John Bell was intentionally poisoned, perhaps by someone within his own household or community, and the Bell Witch narrative served as a convenient cover for a more human and equally terrifying crime. Ultimately, the true explanation for the Bell Witch haunting remains shrouded in mystery. Whether it was a genuine supernatural encounter, a product of psychological or social forces, an elaborate deception, or a tragic case of poisoning masked by folklore. The tale continues to fascinate and unsettle us, a testament to the enduring power of the unexplained. The story of the Bell Witch, like a persistent echo in the Tennessee hills, has refused to fade into the quiet annals of history. For over 2 centuries, it has gripped the imaginations of people from all walks of life, from wide-eyed children huddled around campfires to seasoned paranormal investigators seeking to unravel its secrets. Its enduring appeal lies in its potent blend of the unexplained, the seemingly impossible, and the very human drama of a family under siege. It's a story that blurs the lines between documented history and chilling folklore, leaving a lingering sense of unease and the persistent question of what truly happened on that Tennessee farm. The small town of Adams, where the Bell family once resided, remains inextricably linked to the legend. The very air seems to hum with the echoes of the past, and the name Bell Witch is whispered with a mixture of reverence and trepidation. Perhaps the most tangible link to this haunting is the Bell Witch Cave, a karst cave located near the site of the original Bell farm. Though some accounts suggest the cave itself didn't play a significant role in the original haunting. Popular belief holds that the Bell Witch retreated to this subterranean sanctuary after John Bell's death. Today, the Bell Witch Cave is a privately owned tourist attraction, drawing paranormal enthusiasts, history buffs, and the simply curious from around the globe. Visitors can take guided tours of the approximately 490-foot-long cave, where they can witness natural formations and hear chilling tales of the Bell family's ordeal and more recent reports of strange activity within the cave's depths. Some even claim to experience unexplained phenomena themselves during their visit, from disembodied whispers to the feeling of being touched by unseen hands. The property also features a replica of the original Bell family cabin, furnished with period pieces, offering a glimpse into the lives of those who were at the centre of this enduring mystery. For those seeking a more immersive experience, lantern tours and even paranormal investigations are offered, allowing visitors to delve deeper into the alleged haunting. The Bell Witch Cave has even been recognised as a historical landmark, listed on the National Historic Registry since 2008. The Bell Witch story has had a profound impact on the paranormal community, solidifying its place as one of the most well-documented and debated cases of a haunting in American history. It has served as inspiration for countless books, documentaries, and films, each offering their own interpretation of the events and attempting to shed light on the mystery. The story's complexity, with its blend of physical manifestations, intelligent communication, and even acclaimed supernatural murder, has made it a cornerstone case study for those interested in the paranormal. It raises fundamental questions about the nature of spirits, the power of belief, and the reliability of historical accounts. The legend has also permeated popular culture in various forms, even inspiring the mythology behind the iconic Blair Witch Project film. The enduring fascination has led to the annual Bell Witch Fall Festival in Adams, Tennessee, a celebration of local history and folklore that draws visitors eager to immerse themselves in the eerie atmosphere and learn more about the legendary haunting. The festival features historical reenactments, storytelling events, and tours of the Bell Witch Cave and other related sites, ensuring that the tale continues to be passed down to new generations. Whether viewed as a true account of supernatural terror, a fascinating piece of American folklore reflecting the anxieties of the 19th century, or a combination of both, the story of the Bell Witch remains a powerful and unsettling enigma. The whispers from the past continue to echo through the Tennessee hills, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that defy explanation and linger in the shadows of our understanding. And so, the tale of the Bell Witch endures, a chilling testament to the darkness that can sometimes seep into the ordinary world. Was it truly the vengeful spirit of Kate Batts? A restless Native American spirit disturbed from its ancient burial ground? Or something else entirely, something that lurks just beyond our understanding, feeding on fear and chaos? The answers, like the whispers of the witch herself, remain elusive, lost in the mists of time and the tangled branches of folklore. But one thing is certain: the story of the Bell Witch continues to grip our imaginations, a dark stain on the history of a small Tennessee town, a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not the ones we can see, but the ones that whisper in the shadows, the ones that prey on our deepest fears, leaving behind a legacy of unease that echoes through the years. A true American ghost story that refuses to die.